Head out to Vashon Island for anniversary, and he brought me roses. I called him Bandana Dude. I thought he was pretty cute. And we met officially at his ex-girlfriend's sister's wedding. He would hit me up. Anytime Facebook said I was online and he was online, he would start chatting with me. And eventually I started hiding when I was online because I was like, I can't get in another relationship right now. I'd gotten out of a relationship and then kind of just had a couple of other guys in and out of my life, and I just felt like I needed some time to figure me out. And so I was like, he's not the kind of guy that I think I would date anyway, and I don't want to lead him on. And then a few weeks later of trying to dodge his communication advances, he got my phone number, also from his ex-girlfriend.
But not in a weird stalkery kind of way.
No, she just happened to need to call you about a certain event on my phone, and you made it quite obvious that you had my cell phone number and that you had plans to use it. And I was like, well, so much for hiding the chats on Facebook. But at this point, I was starting to really enjoy our friendship. Vashon Island, and we're staying in this tiny little boathouse. Sorry, I'm freezing. We're kicking the heat on now, but it is not a bad view. And the owners left a bottle of wine, a note. There's a hot tub out on the deck. It's just this tiny, cute little boathouse that we'll be staying in. The only downside to this, mind you, I knew we were going rustic. But when I say rustic, I mean that is the toilet and the sink. And the shower is back this way. So when we said rustic cabin, we weren't mucking about. It's super cute. Getting ready to... I think I will limit my bathroom breaks. But I mean, to travel to Colorado really for a discipleship training program. I was trying to be focused. They wanted me to be focused. Jake and I were hanging out more and more and more and more and more and talking like
all the time.
Every day.
Yeah.
Multiple times a day. And so I don't know, what was it? Like a month into the conversation, I was like, I'm not ready for a relationship, so I don't know what your intentions are. We need to just be friends right now. But I did leave the door open because I couldn't bear the thought at that point of just writing him off completely as an option, because he was kind of, I don't know, worming his way into my heart. You had intentions all along, though.
Yeah. I did.
And so I went off to this discipleship training program, and but first I spent 2 weeks in New York at a friend's wedding, and we started writing letters and keeping journals to one another.
We weren't allowed to talk anymore.
Yeah, that was the other thing. This discipleship training program, there were no romantic interests allowed at this point. And so we were allowed to write each other 2 letters apiece the entire, 12 weeks I was gone? 10 weeks?
It was in that window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I came home for another friend's wedding, and I got permission to have breakfast at his family's house. And I remember you picking me up in the snow. There was a ton of snow on the ground. And I remember just flying into his arms.
Mm-hmm.
I was so happy to see him, and he just gave me this great big bear hug. And I went and I met your mom and spent time with her for the first time. And then I went to my friend's wedding, and we were talking and sitting together there at this wedding, and I was so happy to see him. And as I was getting into my car to leave again for the next 9 or 10 weeks, Jake gives me this great big hug and tells me that he loves me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of like whispered in my ear, and I wasn't sure that I'd heard it correctly. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I respond? I haven't even like gotten this far. And so I kind of mumbled I love you back and panicked, got in the car, and it's not like we could follow up with a conversation about what had just happened either.
No.
So why, maybe you can tell me why you decided to say you loved me right then.
Because I did.
Because you did. Okay, you have to participate in the storytelling.
I am participating. And I didn't mind the thought of you ruminating on that while you were writing me your next letter. So.
Oh, okay. So anyways, 2 letters apiece the entire time we were gone.
It was a gamble. A calculated gamble.
It's definitely something I thought about. I will grant you that. Mm-hmm. And so the letters were 12 handwritten pages long. Like, I sent 12 pages, you sent 14. Or no, maybe, I don't know. You sent 12 and then I sent 14, and then you upped the ante and sent me, what was the second letter? How long was that?
20 some odd pages.
20 some odd handwritten page letters. Keep in mind, we had weeks to write these letters, so we just kind of keep an ongoing journal of what was happening. And it's actually stopped raining. And then I took a detour on the way home to California, but right before I left, Jake asked me to be his steady. And at that point, I hesitated.
No, you said no.
I didn't say no.
You did.
I don't think I said no. I was trying to figure...
I remember the no.
I was trying to figure things out. Jake was not super pleased. He told me he felt that maybe I had been leading him on a bit. And I was like, I need a little time. And we hung out a couple of times, and on a hike, I told him, well, I think I've changed my mind. And then you said...
maybe not.
Yeah. Then he's like, no, I think you're right. I think we should wait. Because at this point, I had decided that in 2 months, I was leaving for Canada, and I would be gone another, 8 weeks. And you were leaving for a trip to Europe in that same time window.
Mm-hmm. Before you took off, so
right.
We were going to be gone another 2-3 months.
Yeah, so we would be apart for another 10, 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I think we should wait. Was it even a week later that we got together?
It was a few days. I don't think it was a week. It was only a few days.
A few days later,
I can only play hard to get for so long.
Right, okay. A few days later, we were having a very long kiss in his car. And so the next day, he came over to see me, and I was like, so does this mean we're dating now? And he's like, yeah, I guess it does. And we had another 2-3 month separation between your trip and my mission trip, and we started talking about getting married during that time window.
Real quick.
Yeah, so it was within the first 4 months of dating, we were talking wedding rings. I got back in August, right before your birthday, and it was October that he proposed. And we got married in January.
Yeah.
So it was just over a year from meeting him.
We met in October.
Yeah. We met in October. We started hanging out towards the end of November. And we got married just over a year later in January. And now we've been married for 7 years. And we have a toddler. And things are going pretty good.
I agree.
Yeah. So we just lost power. We had 2 space heaters plugged in.
Oh, it's very wet out here.
And then we plugged in the toaster oven. And suddenly we lost power. Thankfully there was an easily accessible breaker box around the back, but it's rustic out here. Let me tell you. Yay! Let there be light. And dinner. Let there be dinner.